You can see that I have made some changes with regard to the topic because initially we wanted to use a nationally representative data from our statistical service. And we went through series of bureaucratic processes and we couldn't get, or we still haven't gotten access to it. So we had a plan B. The plan B was to conduct our own survey and then do some sort of exploratory research. So that's what I do. And it's related to the topic you see. So basically, we look at a government program during the COVID, and that program is Coronavirus Alleviation Program Business Support Scheme loan. So that is the CAP-BAS loan, okay? And the idea was to look at how the loan impacted or influenced innovation activities among women-owned enterprises in Ghana. So in terms of the outline, I'll just give you a brief background and then we'll talk about the program itself. And then I will show you how we collected the data, the methods that we use, and then a bit of the findings that we have so far. In the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of studies that have shown the effects of the pandemic on households, on businesses, and then on the economy. And in fact, in the last 2 days, we've also heard a lot about it. Okay, so we all know the pandemic, it started as a health crisis and then it generated economic crisis and even care crisis. So that's how in the literature you see the triple crisis. And as such, businesses were supposed to come out with strategies to make sure that they manage the repercussions. And so if you look at the literature on firms' responses to crisis, there are 4 main strategies. So the first is retrenchment, perseverance, and then exit, and then the last is innovation. And if you also look at the literature, innovation is seen as the most proactive because it gives the firm some sort of adaptation, okay, strategy for them. So that's seen as the most proactive response to crisis. And at the same time, the literature also says that crisis provides firms with an opportunity to innovate. And if you also look at what has happened in the last 2 years, studies have shown that a lot of the small, medium scale enterprises have innovated, and you can see such studies from China, Germany, South Africa, and many other countries. At the same time, we know that for women-owned enterprises, access to finance or resources is a major challenge for them. So our first objective was to look at how women-owned enterprises in Ghana responded to the pandemic. Then, if you look at how many governments responded to the crisis, the immediate response was to establish some sort of emergency support packages. And these were mainly in the form of direct cash disbursements, short to medium-term loans, deferment of payments, and tax rebates. And this is seen in so many countries. Botswana is an example, Ghana is an example. So in our case, the government responded by establishing the Coronavirus Alleviation Program Business Support Scheme. Okay. But then how did this scheme benefit women-owned enterprises? Is it just business as usual or not? And so the second objective was to look at how the access to this loan motivated women-owned enterprises to innovate. Okay. And then thirdly, if you look at the kind of restrictions that were imposed, our borders were closed just like many other countries. And in fact, in the case of our land borders, they were closed for more than a year. And then the nature of the transmission of the virus also meant that a lot of businesses in terms of production and delivery and marketing strategies were also affected. So we are also interested in knowing whether some innovation activities were more explored than others or not. Okay. So the main objective here is just to gain some insight into innovation activities of women-owned enterprises in times of crisis. Okay. All right. So we come to the program itself. Ghana recorded its first 2 cases on March 12, 2020. And then in early April, the government came out with the Coronavirus Alleviation Program. And those are the key components. So the first is an emergency preparedness and response plan, where the government allocated about 579 million Ghana cedis. And then there was also allocation to water and sanitation, 3 months electricity subsidy for households and businesses, distribution of hot meals and food packages to poor households, then relief packages for frontline health workers. And then lastly, we have the 600 million cedis for micro, small, and medium scale enterprises through the CAP loan scheme. And this was actually launched in May 2020. And it was also to be supplemented by about 400 million Ghana cedis in banking lending. So, we're looking at 1 billion Ghana cedis, which is about $125 million to micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. So in order for any of these businesses to benefit from the scheme, they were supposed to have a tax identification number, be a nationally recognized, have nationally recognized identity card, of course, passport picture, annual sales information should be given just to show that they have been impacted by the pandemic. And then the applicant must also have at least 1 employee. So we're looking at 1 to 99 employees. And this scheme was managed by Ghana Enterprises Agency. So what they do is once they receive the applications, they will vet and then decide whether or not to give the loans to the applicants. Okay. So what we did was to contact the Ghana Enterprises Agency, and then they gave us a list of beneficiaries, okay, women-owned enterprises. So they gave us about 100 of them, and then we randomly made calls to these businesses. And I must say that, telephone interviews are not very easy because sometimes because of these scammers, they can't trust people. So we had to persist. We made several calls, and at the end of the period, 30 of them responded to our calls, and the interview typically lasted for about 20 minutes. And so we had questionnaires that we took them through. First, basic information about the firm and then the owner. And then we also collected information on business operation before and after the pandemic. And then the main thing was about innovation activities. And we defined innovation in line with OECD definition. And that says that innovation is defined as implementation of a new or significantly modified product or process, a new marketing method, or a new organizational method in business practice, workplace, or external relations. So basically, we looked at all 4 types of innovation. So it's either product or service innovation. The second is whether it's so it's either product or service innovation as the first, then process innovation, marketing innovation, and then organizational innovation. So we look at all 4 types of innovation. And we used both descriptive, qualitative, and quantitative approaches in showing our results. So this is just a summary of the kind of businesses that we interviewed. And in terms of firms' age, the average age was about 12 years, but of course we had the youngest firm was about 3 years old, and then the oldest was about 22 years. And they were all owned by women, of course, and most of them were sole proprietors. Okay. In terms of education, we saw that a lot of them had some form of tertiary education, and the nature of businesses that we interviewed were also in line with what we've seen in our various statistical reports. So in Ghana, a lot of women are either in the wholesale or retail businesses or in manufacturing. And that is what we saw also from our study. So the first result that I'll show you has to do with how they responded to the pandemic. So if you look at the graph, the first one just looks at any form of innovation, so any of the 4. And we saw that almost all the firms or the enterprises that we interviewed innovated. And if you look at the next 4, that gives us the breakdown. So organizational innovation, marketing innovation, process innovation, and product or service innovation. And so you see that a lot of them were involved in process innovation that had to do with the use of internet and mobile money or electronic form of payment. And that was also in line with the nature of the pandemic and looking at the restrictions, okay? And we also saw that a lot of them were engaged in organizational innovation. And then we also had significant number of them also in the form of marketing innovation. Marketing innovation here looks at three things. So we look at the product design or packaging, we look at the pricing, and then the placement. So I will show you the breakdown in terms of the marketing innovation soon. Okay, so we also saw that for all the firms that we interviewed, they admitted that the loan that they received contributed to their survival. And mainly they used the loan to pay salaries or to restock their businesses. Okay. And then we also saw that in responding to the pandemic, they reduced the number of workers, and the most affected were the casual employees. So, and even after the pandemic, you can see that most of them did not go back for their casual employees. Then our second objective was to find out whether access to the loan contributed to innovation. We heard from them that yes, access to the loan helped them to innovate. And in the case of product or service innovation, all the firms indicated that access to the loan contributed to the innovation that they made. And you can also see that organizational innovation and then marketing innovation, a lot of, majority of the firms confirmed that access to the loan helped them to innovate. Okay. And like I said, because we used qualitative analysis so we had firms sharing their experiences with that, and I'll just share the first one. So the first one has to do with agro-processing firms, and three of them. So they all said that before the loan, they were just into one crop, that's cassava, which is a local food crop, which is used for so many things. And once they had the loan, they were able to add additional crop to it. Okay. Then we were also interested in knowing whether some innovative activities were explored more than others. And clearly you see that process innovation and organizational innovation were explored more. In the case of process innovation, that was in line with the kind of restrictions. So people had to, find ways of making payments through other means instead of the fiscal means. Okay, so that was in line with it. And then organizational innovation. So a lot of the firms shared their experiences with us. The fact that they've joined other firms in the industry to share ideas so that they can improve upon the services that they were providing. Okay. Because of time, I'll just skip the details here. Okay. And then we also try to look at some sort of intersectionality analysis. So here you see how the loan drove innovation by sector. And again, the emphasis here is on the agri sector, where we see that much of the innovation was in terms of product. And that is also true because it's easier introducing a new product there, unlike the wholesale and retail where they don't introduce any new product. So that's why we see that there, the major innovation was in terms of process innovation. Okay. All right, so just to conclude, so what we found out from this exploratory research is that innovation has played a key role for the survival of many women-owned enterprises. Okay, so it's like a coping strategy for a lot of them. And also, if you look at the literature, there's that gender gap when it comes to innovation among women-owned enterprises. So we saw that it isn't, the problem is not about women-owned enterprises lacking ideas, and that once they are given the resources, they'll be able to innovate, okay, just like their male counterparts. So, yeah, thank you.